welcome back to the Cardinals Corner. This is your host, Matt Hewitt, here with Turnbuckle Bros, and with me, as always, is Mike Baron Von Holtzclaw, his new nickname he came up with him over the holiday, and the Blue Chipper, the Day Tripper, the Lime Ripper himself, the King of Diamond Mind Online, Steven P. Mutsu. Welcome back to the show, you guys. Edition 2 of the Cardinals Corner. And today, we're going to talk about a lot of interesting things, some transactions that have been going on recently in the Cardinals organization. So, of course, you guys, since the firing of Mike Schilt, the Cards have obviously named a new manager, Oliver Marmol. Good addition, good, whatever, not, who knows? We'll see. And so, there's actually been a few other transactions as well that we're going to get into on today's episode. But to start it off, most notably, the Cards have signed a hot free agent, Steven Matz, to a 4-year deal. Mike, tell us about it.
Well, first, I just want to point out how cool it is that the Turnbuckle boys are talking about Matz. You see what I did there?
Yeah.
It's a signing. It wasn't necessarily the signing that a lot of people were hoping for. People were talking, I think, fairly realistically about Marcus Stroman and maybe not so realistically about Max Scherzer. But Matz is coming off of a good year, and he is the kind of pitcher they were looking for. He throws strikes. He throws ground balls. He, I think, stays fairly healthy. And when they first signed him, I thought it was okay. I wasn't thrilled about it, but I was all right with it. Since then, I see Kevin Gausman signed for twice as much as Steven Matz. And I see Max Scherzer signing for, Max Scherzer is getting as much for 1 year as Matz is getting for 4 years. On the whole, at this point, I think it's a good value signing at this point.
That's good. Good points there. Steve, you're kind of thumbs in the middle, thumbs downish on Steven Matz. Why?
Yeah, he hasn't been good. Well, last year he was good, but the previous 4 seasons before that, he was not. And 2020, he was terrible. 9 home runs in 20 innings. But, I agree he's a value signing. I'm just not so sure we needed a value signing. I'm not so sure the guys we already have couldn't have done as good as Matz.
2020, he was awful, and it's kind of easy to say you throw 2020 out. It was 20 innings,
Yeah. But there's 3 years before that,
right,
too,
but
he was bad.
But the 2 years before that, 2018 and 19, he wasn't bad. He was just kind of average.
Well, a little below average, I would say.
Right, but basically average.
Basically average, yes, I agree.
The thing that I have been thinking about, both Matz and Gausman, these were guys, they're both about the same age. They're right around 30. These were guys who, when they came up, they were hot prospects. They tore up the minors. They were high draft picks. They were expected to be outstanding pitchers. And neither one of them really has been until the last couple of years. And so you look at their numbers, they both have losing records in their career. Their career ERAs are both right around league average. But I think there's a sense with each of them, maybe people are crossing their fingers, but with these two guys, they're not saying, here's a couple of mediocre pitchers who just had a good year. I think with both Matz and Gausman, you've got front offices saying, here are two guys who were supposed to be really good pitchers, and we think they have figured it out. We think they are becoming something like what they were supposed to be. Maybe they are, maybe they're not. But obviously the Cardinals are hoping that if you take Matz and you put a Gold Glove defense behind him, that he can if he replicates what he did last year, if he doesn't have to take a big step forward. If 3 out of the 4 years of this contract he pitches about like he did last year, I think it's a good signing. And I think they're hoping, I'm going to say 3 ifs here, but they're all reasonable ifs. If both Wainwright and Matz are close to what they were last year, And if Flaherty is healthy, that's an awfully good top of the rotation.
Here's what the rotation could potentially be. Right now, it might look something like Adam Wainwright, number 1, Jack Flaherty, 2, Steven Matz, 3, Dakota Hudson, 4, and Miles Michaelis, 5. Steve,
Matz could easily be the 5th starter on that team. Easily.
Well, tell us why.
The other guys are better. That's
Oh,
why.
come on. No, I think you got to put Matz ahead of Dakota Hudson at this point.
Yeah, maybe. Dakota Hudson has had more success recently. Last year he was hurt than Matz, though. He just has.
We'll see if he stays healthy.
One thing about Matz, though, that I will say that I did not know this about Matz. Even though his stats look like a soft tossing lefty, he averages 95 miles per hour on his fastball. I did not know he threw that hard. And there's another thing I didn't know. The coaches on the Cardinals want him to race Harrison Bader to see who's faster.
Wow.
Supposedly, Matz was the fastest guy in the American League last year, which I think is crazy.
That's a bad
just heard
idea.
that
I see him pulling a hammy.
Yeah, I mean,
I see him
Harrison Bader is
him beating Bader and pulling a hammy as he crosses home plate.
And then he doesn't pitch until July.
Right. Not good.
Yeah.
The guy must be a hell of an athlete, I mean, he must be.
So at one of the first interviews.
One other thing, Matt, that I am hoping, since we got him for $11 million a year, if Gausman signs for 22, I'm guessing Stroman's getting 25. So
I don't know what it is yet, but I would guess, yeah.
Whatever the fact that they signed Matz for half of what those guys are getting, I'm hoping that means they have another signing that they are going to try to pull off. And it wouldn't be a big name guy. It would be a smaller contract than Matz, but it could be a relief pitcher, like a late inning relief pitcher, or it could be another bat that is more than just bench depth, that is like a part-time DH. By signing Matz for $11 million, they left themselves some room, and I'm hoping that they will use that and come back with one more signing that makes a difference.
I hope it's 2. I hope they get both those players.
That'd be great, and they could. They could theoretically.
That's what we need. That would make for a nice offseason, right?
Yeah, that would be terrific.
One thing I wanted to ask you guys, or just kind of bring up, so I'm looking at one of Matt's first interviews as a Cardinal, and the first thing he mentions is the famous Cardinal way. And us being, hardcore Cardinals fans like us, the Cardinal way is something that's thrown out all the time. It's something that's discussed, being the great, system that the Cardinals are as far as fostering players and so on and so forth. And so he talks about the Cardinal way. Mike, do you think Steven Matz fits into the Cardinal way as a pitcher?
I hope so. I mean, I don't want to get too carried away with the quote-unquote Cardinals way. I know what it means, and I think it's real. But as with any time you talk about intangibles are very real, but it's very easy to get carried away with it and make them into more than they are. I mean, the fact that he's talking about it and he's excited about it, if that just means that he is looking forward to coming in and learning from Adam Wainwright and pitching to Yadi Molina and, being just in that environment. Yeah, I think any pitcher who wants to benefit from that can.
Well, here's what Matz actually had to say about that, Mike. He says, "I've always really admired the way the Cardinals did things. Being able to throw to an incredible catcher like Yadier Molina is something that also goes into the process. The team itself, they have incredible defense, the run that they went on last year, the excitement of the fans, the great ballpark. I mean, those are all things that he's thinking about right now, whether he's saying those things or not, just to say them. I mean, obviously, as a pitcher, you get to pitch to Yadier Molina on his last season, who's trying to go out on top. Who wouldn't be excited about that?
No. But I think KK could have did the same thing as Matz,
Maybe. He could. But, I mean, Steven Matz, 30 years old, There's still some gas in the tank. We'll probably get those 4 years out of him. You know, who knows what's going to happen with Matz? I mean, we have him now. Only time will tell. So, I mean, as far as the money left over that Mike was talking about, the Cardinals do have it. So it remains to be seen, if you will, if the Cardinals will make those moves.
I don't expect them to be throwing money around, but if I would guess that they still perceive one or two needs that they would like to address. And because of the price tag on Matz, again, compared to Kevin Gausman, who I think is a relatively similar pitcher at this stage, the fact that they paid half as much for him, if they perceive those needs, they can go out and look and see if, a name that I looked at for that late inning relief pitcher was Adam Ottavino, former Cardinals draft pick.
Yeah.
Who is a free agent. And he's in his mid-30s. He is not a great pitcher at this point, but he's a good pitcher. He's a veteran pitcher. And if they thought that a guy like him could help out in the bullpen, I think they could afford him. And Steve, what kind of bat would you like to see them potentially pick up, knowing that it's not going to be an everyday starter? But what kind of bat do you think could be in that price range that they might be able to land?
Somebody like Schwarber, probably. Somebody that could hit righties, preferably somebody that could bat leadoff against righties. That's really what we don't have, and Schwarber can do that, so he's perfect. There's a lot of guys out there. We need one of them, and we need that relief pitcher, though. Both of those things we need. And I think, listening to Mozeliak talk the other day, that's exactly what we're going to get. Did you guys hear that interview?
I did not.
But he alluded to the fact that those two holes are getting filled.
Good.
I don't remember exactly what he said, but he alluded to it. So I'm pretty confident that there's more to come.
Well, obviously they've got some guys in the farm system who they are counting on to contribute next year, and I think we'll talk about the prospects on a later edition. But I think there are some of those guys who are at Memphis this year who we will see get considerable time, both pitching and hitting for the Cardinals.
But speaking of relief pitchers, the Cardinals did re-sign TJ McFarland to a 1-year deal, who was pretty good for us down the stretch. He was a big part of that 17-game winning streak that they had. I mean, last year in 2021, he went 4-1. He had a 2.56 ERA, 11 earned runs, 21 strikeouts, and 38 appearances. What do you think about keeping TJ McFarland for another year, Mike?
It's a good signing. It was kind of a surprise. They brought him and Luis Garcia in last year, and these guys, they're relief pitchers who had been around the block a few times, and I don't think the Cardinals brought them in thinking, hey, these guys will really solidify the bullpen and light a fire. They were just going to kind of come in and give some depth, but they both pitched really, really well down the stretch. They became guys you counted on. When they came in a close game, you felt confident. And I'm happy that they re-signed McFarland. I'm glad he's still part of the bullpen. I don't know if they're going to try and re-sign Garcia as well, but if I'll say the same thing I said about Matz. If McFarland pitches as well as he did last year, close to as well, he'll contribute to this team.
Steve, what are your thoughts on keeping McFarland for another year?
He's a good value signing, and if there's one thing last year's Cardinal team taught us is if you think you have enough pitching depth, you're wrong, and you need more. And he's a good depth signing. So I liked him around. Good guy to have.
Again, last year, the same time they signed those two guys, they signed Wade LeBlanc, John Lester, and J.A. Happ. And at the time that they signed those guys, man, Cardinals fans were just rolling their eyes and saying, really? This is what you're bringing in? But those guys came in and pitched well. They threw strikes. They let the defense do the work. They got us through a period when the Cardinals were thin on pitching.
Yes, they did.
I don't think you want to bring all three of them back and bank on them as regular starters next year, but it goes to what Steve just said. there's no such thing as enough pitching. There's just no such thing as enough pitching. Guys are going to get hurt. Guys are going to underperform. And, you always want to know the next man up.
I completely agree. And so that would bring me to somebody who the Cardinals didn't keep, which may be surprising and may not. But the Cards non-tendered Jose Rondon ahead of the deadline. Thoughts on that? I mean, my thoughts before I throw it to one of you guys would be, Rondon stepped up to the plate to a certain degree, especially towards the end of the season, showed some promise, and there might be a few holes in his game. But is it a surprising move, Steve, that the Cards decided not to pick up Jose Rondon?
No, we've got a lot of guys coming up and they need spots to play. But he was good. He helped out last year. I wouldn't mind seeing him back on the AAA team in case we need something.
Mike, thoughts on Rondon's contract not getting picked up?
Yeah, it's the same thing Steve said. It's I don't think it is an indication that they think he's no good. You have 40 spots on the 40-man roster. And every year, at the end of the year, you start looking at young players who did not need to be on the 40-man before, but now you have to make those tough decisions. And I think there are just young pitchers who are ahead of Rondon in the Cardinals' mind that they felt like they had to protect.
We have 4 open spots on the 40-man roster right now, too. There's only 36 people on there. So that's a pretty good indication we're going to sign somebody.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, a few other names I didn't mention that the Cardinals picked up the contracts for in Memphis are an infielder outfitter of Brendan Donovan, and then a guy that we brought up in the first Cardinals corner, Juan Yepes. So they did pick up his contract. It looks like those guys are, at least as of now, they have a couple of those roster spots. So things to look forward to. Well, guys, I mean, pretty good second edition of the Cardinals Corner. Covered some transactions here today. I want to tell everybody right now to please visit us on Facebook at Turnbuckle Bros. Visit our page, like us. We're starting to share more content on there more and more. Follow us on social media. Also follow us on Twitter, Turnbuckle_Bros. Obviously on YouTube as well, where you find the show every week. Just search at Turnbuckle Bros on YouTube. So for Mike Baron Von Holtzclaw, Steve the Lime Ripper Mutsu, this is Matt Hewitt saying adios.